Hello, and welcome to the Enterprise Automation Excellence Podcast, hosted by Enterprise Management Associates. As a leading IT analyst firm, we provide deep insights across IT and data management technologies. In this podcast, we explore how automation drives business processes, analytics, development, and infrastructure. Join hosts Dan Twing and Tom O'Rourke as they discuss the evolving automation landscape, share strategies to optimize your tools, and guide strategic decisions for your automation portfolio. Now, let's dive into the world of automation excellence.
Hello, and welcome to the Enterprise Automation Excellence Podcast. I'm Dan Twing, and I'm here with my co-host Tom O'Rourke. And today we're going to carry on the conversation about product thinking in automation. And this time, we're going to tie that to all of the hype and trends around AI. We've recently talked about the product thinking in a couple of episodes. We talked about all of the expansions in the EMA radar that are incorporating a lot of these trends. And we talked about AI specifically in our most recent episode. Now, this is going to kind of tie all of that together a bit. We're going to start by talking about EMA's maturity model, which really is something that we've been using for a number of years, looking at how organizations manage their infrastructure and how that might apply here. So, we talk about reactive, active, proactive, and dynamic. And reactive is you're just dealing with fires and problems as they come up. You don't really have any strong monitoring. That generally, in an automation perspective, comes down to very task-specific or fragmented kinds of automations, a script here or what have you. Active, you're really trying to raise your operational management, and you're focused on some monitoring. And here we have more of a use case driven automation that pairs with that, where we're starting to have a little more flow through. Then we get to proactive, where you're really focused on services and service oriented management. And here we have monitoring, we even have predictive analytics, we have the ability to see things coming and be proactive at heading them off. In automation, we're starting to get way more integrated automation. And we've seen this over the last number of years with workload products connecting into service desk and ticketing type systems and so on. So we're bringing more holistic automation. Dynamic was always the level we used to talk about as sometime in the future, but we are now living in that future where AI and the reasoning capabilities can bring you to a more holistic, self-adjusting, more dynamic and self-healing, at least self-aware kind of an environment. And in automation, that's really transformative automation. We're really reaching now for the full end-to-end business outcome. That move from proactive to dynamic is also really where we are seeing the push for orchestration in automation, because we're trying to bring these processes full circle around a business outcome. So that's kind of this maturity model. And, it was Tom who raised the point with me that, this is part of product thinking, because you can let the hype cycle and what seems the buzzwords and the fires that you're fighting decide what you're going to do next, fight the last battle in your planning for automation, or you can be more strategic in how you do that and purposefully move through this maturity and around your own business strategy. So, Tom, what does that mean to you when you think about bringing AI to productivity and thinking about automation through the product lens?
I would start by phrasing it as AI is another tool in the toolkit for automation. And as we'll get into in today's episode, there are different use cases where AI can help, but we're going to step back and talk about this through a product thinking lens that we introduced in episodes 14 and 15 to try to help make sure that as you're evaluating the various capabilities of the AI tools that are available to you, that you are thinking about them in the context of what type of business impact they're going to have. And to kind of reiterate what Dan said in all of this, there's a huge amount of focus in the popular press on AI today. That I would say that a lot of it is noise, but that you can see some themes that AI is going to help us all improve our productivity. And you can also see that there's a theme of AI is going to replace people. My opinion on all of this is that this noise is ideas that many people are spreading, but that these are ideas that right now don't have a lot of evidence behind them. AI has not been around for very long. AI has not been in use in a business environment for very long. So, product thinking, let's just recap it briefly. We're talking about taking a look at the automation products that you operate, the services you provide to the organization, and framing that in the context of being a platform. Strategically managing these products and services, thinking about this in the context of what you're offering today and where you should be aiming the products and services that you're offering in order to meet tomorrow's business needs, next year's business needs, and so forth. That all of this is done by evaluating how these AI capabilities are going to help you with your customers, or they're going to help your team in serving the customers. And it'll come back to a focus on the value proposition.
So, Tom, in your experience, who in the organization is setting the objectives? I mean, if you're an automation leader, you're taking some lead from your board and your management and then applying that. But to product and strategic, who's most likely in the seat to take an objective from above and turn it into a plan in automation?
I think that the person best placed to own the plan is the automation leader, whether they are manager of automation or director of automation, where their inputs come from, who their stakeholders are in this journey is going to vary by the organization structure. Most commonly, this will level up into the automation leader's boss and their boss, starting with the chief technology officer or the chief operating officer or the chief information officer along the way. But it's also very likely that there are going to be other inputs coming in at a strategic level that reflect the other seats at the table that report to the CIO, whether it's chief financial officer, whether it is coming from the chief risk or chief security officer. Top down, there are going to be many, many inputs coming into this. And that's before you consider some strategic, some tactical requests that are going to be coming in from the business as the business tries to figure out how to get automation to best fit their needs.
And in a lot of organizations today, that some number of those folks you just mentioned might all be party to an automation center of excellence, which may be the logical place for that conversation. But there's still usually going to be one or two folks who are really the visionaries, in one of those automation roles that's going to have to exert their thinking to really move that committee along in the right direction.
Yes. And, maybe there already is a technology strategy in the organization, or there's an infrastructure strategy that this can fit within. Sometimes that strategy is so high level that there's not enough information there to help you drive an automation strategy. Other times it's very detailed and you're filling in the blocks. Either way, I would bring this back around and say that it is probably best if the head of automation owns the strategy for automation in all of this, that they are the receiver of all of the inputs and they're accountable for putting it together and coming back with the strategy and roadmap that is going to best fit the needs of the organization, because they're the ones who have the most expertise in this area.
And when we look at the kinds of use cases that they might be focused on, certainly within the workload automation space and expanding into orchestration, first and foremost, you're going to see it within the products itself as they're upgraded. And that can apply to other forms of automation tools as well. RPA is going, those products are adding AI. Pretty much every class of enterprise software is. So wherever you're defining automation, you're going to have likely initially some AI support in like a chat bot that more or less displaces what we used to do in fax or in a knowledge database. From there, they might enhance the UI to let you interact with it natively. And then there will be further capabilities as we reach towards that intelligent orchestration that we're looking for. And I think what's key is that the shift here isn't to shift to AI. The shift is to shift to intelligent orchestration. AI is the tool, as Tom said earlier. And really, with respect to workload specifically, AI can add a lot of value, but don't forget the core mission. The core mission of workload automation and orchestration is consistent, efficient execution. So as you're looking at these use cases and applying them, they need to further your underlying goals. They shouldn't change them, right? AI is not the end goal. AI is a means to an end, and that end is better orchestration and execution of tasks so that the business outcomes happen when they should, in the way they should, and in the time they should.
Right. And when you're out there carrying the message on what's new in automation, what automation can do to serve its customers, the business and the other groups in the organization, remember that you're not bringing them technology, you're bringing them solutions. You are not saying, hey, we now have super fancy LLM tool 3.6 embedded in, so you can chat with our automation tool in order to find out your job status. Go further than that and understand in the shoes that they walk in, perhaps focused on nightly closing and reconciliation of all the transactions, whether it is supporting marketing campaigns along the way. Bring it out there and tell them how having that feature could benefit them if you were to work together and put it forth into production.
Well, and beyond what you might get within the product, you're going to have some other things you have to do, like there will be third-party tools that you might bring on board. And Tom, you had some great examples that go beyond what the product can do.
Yes. I think first and foremost, we're watching all the vendors in the automation space determine how they can use these AI tools, how they can embed them into the products they're offering, whether they're leveraging LLMs, whether they're leveraging machine learning, whether they're using neural nets or something else. These are becoming parts of the products. But beyond that, there are some other use cases worth considering. There is the integration of the automation product with the AI products that you're running in your organization. If for no other reason than these AI products are going to be data hungry, they're going to need your organization's data to be fed in and kept updated in order for them to be able to support decision making, to provide feedback, to provide reasoning. Then there's your ability to apply the third-party tools that your organization has chosen, whether they've chosen ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or another one, to look at how you can integrate that into your product and service delivery to better serve your customers, and then how you can support your team in going to use these tools so that you can better serve your customers.
So Tom, as we're looking at each of these possible use cases, Let's say that you were going to coach somebody on, now look at that use case through the product lens. What might that look like?
Sure. To illustrate this, I am familiar with a number of organizations that have taken ChatGPT or another large language model tool and given it all of their user documentation, asked it to help to identify issues in the documentation, places that there are inconsistencies, places that there are gaps, to provide clarity around that, and even to take it forward further and to help to build things like, developer onboarding checklists to accelerate taking a new developer and helping them get set up so that they can leverage the automation products of choice in their own work. Now, with that as an example, step back. Product thinking says, okay, first, what job is this serving? Well, we're looking to serve the developers and the teams in which those developers exist. All right, what are the gains and pains here? Well, if we can shrink the amount of time that it takes to get a new developer up and running, so that they can start to apply their development skills to use the APIs in automation to integrate those into the processes supporting, that's a win. All right, well, what's the effort that it's going to take for you and your team to go and work with an LLM to do this? How long is it going to take to do that? Are there risks or liabilities that need to consider in this context if you are providing information into it about how your internal operations works? How do you do that? How do you address the security issues? And ultimately, what is this going to take to adopt? But what business impact is it going to be? If the business is looking to accelerate how developers bring new capabilities to market, you can take this from being just simply an operational cost to a place that automation can help to have a business impact to bring new capabilities to market earlier.
Right. And I think not every automation is worthy of that level of view, but some things are obvious and short-term kinds of things, but the big sweeping ones probably should be looked at through this lens, understand, because if you had 20 potential use cases, how do you prioritize those? That's a very common product manager issue, right, Tom?
Yeah.
You always have more ideas than you have resources. So part of this isn't just to figure out what you might automate. You probably have a long list. It's how do you figure out which ones deserve to get done sooner than later and which ones maybe don't deserve any attention.
Exactly. And I will say, as a key takeaway, there are always going to be more things to do than you can possibly accomplish. Even if your AI tools make you all more productive, the backlog, the wish list is longer than you will ever get to.
So a lot of the product thinking benefit here is not just that you're putting the thought process into picking the right things as the first priorities, but you're also, in the course of that, creating that mini business case that helps you justify, upward in the organization or horizontally why this and not something else.
Yes. Moving away from the new release of our automation tool has, 16 great technical features. So we're going to need to have 36 hours of downtime at the end of the month to upgrade, to here's the way that we can help the business between now and the end of the year. And that's why we need to make time in order to be able to go do this upgrade.
Well, we're reaching the end of this episode, and of course, this thought process can be carried further, and we will in future episodes. We can certainly talk about once you've picked something, we'll get into some details around how do you pilot that, how do you address the expectations around that automation. But for today, we've carried that as far as we have time for. Tom, do you want to kind of summarize what you would leave the automation leader with thinking about from this episode?
Sure. So the elevator pitch on product thinking is, how does your automation strategy impact the business? That's what it's all about. And I will tell you, from having seen organizations apply this, beyond helping the business, the other outcome in this will be to get automation to be seen as a business contributor.
Absolutely. It has the potential to do that. And in many ways, it's been doing it for a long time. But just like we're trying to connect end-to-end processes with orchestration, I think if you want to see automation rise in attention within the organization so that the budgets get allocated and things get done in an orderly fashion around how you progress, product thinking brings that strategic view.
Exactly. On that note, thanks everybody who joined us here today. Our homepage is at em360tech.com. For feedback or questions, you can reach out to us at eaepodcast@emausa.com. If you have ideas for topics that we should cover, Dan and I would be delighted to hear from you on that. And you can also reach out to Dan and I on LinkedIn. We're both active there.
Thank you, Dan and Tom, for your insights on today's topic, and thanks to our listeners for joining the Enterprise Automation Excellence podcast. If you're a technology or operations leader looking to enhance your automation strategy, stay connected for more expert insights. Visit enterprisemanagement.com to learn how EMA can support your automation initiatives, and check out more episodes for in-depth discussions and industry trends.